Well, I bet you guys weren't expecting this. Yes, hi there, welcome to the post Geekout reaction for part 3 of Luke Cage. We're going to be covering episodes 9 through 13, and let me just go ahead and start off by saying, I apologize for this being so insanely late compared to those first 2 episodes, but if you guys follow me on Twitter, you know that pretty much as soon as I finished recording part 2 of the post Geekout reaction to Luke Cage, I got sick. And I continued to be sick for about 3 weeks. And I don't mean sick like, I guess I got a little bit of a snuffly nose. I mean like, I don't think I can leave the apartment kind of sick. For any of you guys out there who saw me at New York Comic Con, sorry that I wasn't more active and energetic. I was like, hey man, how's it going? Yeah, what's your name? All right, let's talk a little bit. Instead I was just like, hey, that's nice. Yeah, no handshakes, maybe a fist bump. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of me for about 3 weeks. I'm still not entirely over it, but I am at that point where I can be on camera again and I can actually talk for a couple of minutes at a time. Some would dispute that I was ever able to do that. But yes, we are now going to finish this up because darn it, this was a good show. I enjoyed watching it and it's a show that deserves to be talked about. So even if all of you finished this probably a month ago at this point, I want to get this conversation out there. I want to finish talking about the final couple episodes of Luke Cage. And normally I would warn you guys and say, hey, in the post Geekout reactions, it's not a review. We're just having an open, honest discussion about how we felt. And that means full spoilers. But I don't feel like I need to do that because I feel like at this point, if you were going to watch Luke Cage, you've watched Luke Cage by now. So let's go ahead and get into it. Just to remind you guys where I'm coming from, I was loving this show. I had heard a lot of complaints about it. I had heard a lot of people saying, yeah, I think it might be my least favorite of the Marvel shows. I still like it, but I think it's my least favorite. And up until episode 8, I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. This one, it's not as good as Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is still my favorite, but man, it is like just right under Jessica Jones. Episodes 9 through 13, yeah, I have to bump it down a little bit because there is a problem that popped up in episodes 9 through 13 that kept this from being the best Marvel show. I still like it. I would not give any of those Marvel Netflix shows lower than an A-, but I would give this an A-. I would give this and Daredevil Season 1 an A-. I know everybody out there absolutely loves Daredevil Season 1 and is like, oh, this is amazing and it is just right under Jessica Jones. Most people agree that Jessica Jones is the best. I would definitely say so because to me, every single episode of Jessica Jones was basically just a movie in and of itself. Like every single episode of Jessica Jones felt like a full meal. And also because I really dug the psychological battle that went on in that show. That it wasn't just, you know, going out there and trying to fight people. It was more emotional, more thought-provoking, more about characters. But then after that, oddly enough, I know that I'm totally in the minority on this. Absolutely in the minority. I fully understand no one else is going to share my opinion on this, but I actually think Daredevil Season 2 is my second placeholder for the Netflix shows. I absolutely love that they did lean a little bit more into the superhero side on it. I really love the chemistry between Matt and Elektra. I know a lot of people did not like Elektra in the show. I actually really enjoyed her. I had problems with Kingpin in Season 1, but in Season 2, he was only there for 2 episodes, but man, he nailed the Kingpin in Season 2. I love the Punisher in that season, so yeah, to me, Daredevil Season 2 is my second placeholder. And then Luke Cage and Daredevil Season 1, they're tied there. They're tied in that third place. But as I said, still really enjoy the show, so let's start with the positives. I have been loving Misty throughout this entire season. And then when she gives the speech to her therapist and she just breaks down, I was like, that deserves an Emmy. It's not going to get one because the Emmys hate all these Marvel Netflix shows. Seriously, they don't even get a nomination. Even Jessica Jones didn't get anything, and that was praised by everyone. So yeah, I don't know why the Emmys doesn't want to recognize the Marvel Netflix shows, but yeah, that moment at the therapist, I was like, this is one of those performances that she's going to put on her demo reel, in which when she goes out there on auditions, this is the thing that she's going to point to and go, I'm capable of that. Although, by the way, I found the Country Time Lemonade product placement to be a little bit weird in that scene. Also, speaking of things I found a little bit weird, I found a little bit weird that after Luke had been shot and he's kind of like slowly dying, they still drove all the way back down to Georgia. I was like, I don't think he could have made that trip. But I did enjoy seeing him go to the doctor, mostly because the whole acid bath scene was one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. And I know a lot of people are like, why are you praising a disturbing scene? It's like, well, because that's what they were going for, and they achieved it. So I have to applaud them for that. I also really enjoyed seeing him walk around his hometown, walk around kind of like you could feel the memories washing back over him again. Also, all throughout this series, they've been making comparisons between Luke Cage and Jesus. They've been making tons of religious metaphors all throughout this. So, to me, the acid bath scene, it kind of is a baptism scene. Because he goes in there, and then when he comes out, he, in many ways, kind of is reborn. He is kind of like, all right, now I have a new purpose, I have a new focus. He goes out there, he finds out all this stuff about Diamondback, and he's like, all right, now I know what I need to do. So even though it was disturbing, I feel like it did serve a very important moment. Also, I really enjoyed when they went down to Georgia and met that scientist, because I enjoyed that it was a very special moment for Claire, because I've been enjoying Claire throughout all these Netflix shows, but this season of Luke Cage, this was the series in which I went, all right, now she is a big thing. Like, she was always kind of like a character off to the side in those other ones. She was a supporting character, but now it's like, okay, now you're a star. Now you are your own fully developed character. And that moment in which the doctor was basically trying to tempt her to coming over to the dark side, I thought that that was a great moment for her character. But just speaking about Claire in general, this was the series that made me realize, okay, we got the origin of Daredevil, we got the origin of Jessica Jones, we got the origin of Luke Cage. Every single one of these, all piled together, is the origin of Night Nurse, and I love the slow burn of that. I love how long it is taking to really build her up. Like, they're taking longer to build her up than they're taking to build up Thanos in the movies, and they're doing a better job of building her up than they're building up Thanos in the movies. She has been one of my favorite characters throughout this entire season, and I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit here, but when it got to that point at the end, when you see her taking off the self-defense class flyer, and it said Colleen Wing on there, I was like, oh my god, that's how she is going to fit in with Iron Fist. That's how she's going to have a connection with everybody. But also, we know her medical skills, we already saw that, and now we've seen how she's adapting to all this superhero stuff, and now we've seen in this season her gain more of an exposure to these big conspiracies and all this stuff going on with superheroes and their origins, and starting to learn how to practice medicine on them. Like, when she realized how to actually save Luke, it was like, oh my god, the whole point of the Night Nurse is that she's somebody who knows how to save superhero people. So this was kind of that moment when she realized, okay, now she's becoming a doctor for superheroes, and now next season she's going to learn how to fight. It is stunning to me how every single season has gone, here's a little bit more of Night Nurse's character being added into Claire, turning her into that character. It has been an amazing progression for her. So yeah, and also speaking of her as Night Nurse, the moment in here in which they're at the nightclub and someone actually goes, yo, get the Night Nurse what she needs. I was like, oh my god, they said the word. They actually said Night Nurse. And I talked about this a little bit in the previous episode, but they kept going, okay, well, we gotta figure out something to do with the barbershop. This is gonna be something, I kept saying, okay, I think it's going to be the Heroes for Hire headquarters, but it could also be the Night Nurse headquarters. And at the end of this, series, when they're looking at the barbershop after it's been destroyed, and they're like, man, whatever this is gonna be, it's gonna be something big. It's like, all right, it has to be one of those two. It's gotta be the Hero for Hire headquarters, or it's gotta be Claire's Night Nurse office. It's gotta be one of those two. Man, I just want Defenders to be here by now, so that way I can see what's going to happen with all this. I also really enjoyed seeing the development of the relationship between Misty and Claire, because when we last left them, they were at odds with each other. I mean, Misty assaulted Claire there in the police headquarters, which is what got her sent into therapy. But I love seeing that as Misty kind of realizes what's going on in the city, the two of them become allies. And like there's that moment in which they fought off those guys and then they kind of compare where they learned how to fight. I thought that was a really strong kind of bonding moment for the two of them. But I've been mentioning in every single one of these episodes that every single time that Misty pops up, I look at that arm and go, okay, what's gonna happen with the arm? Because in the comics, Misty has a robot arm, and I've been watching this entire season like, when she's gonna lose the arm, when she's gonna get the robot arm. And then there came that moment in which her arm got shot, and Claire said, we have to act now or she's going to lose the arm. And I was like, this is it. This is when it happens. This is when the thing happens. This is when she's got to lose her arm and become a cyborg. They didn't do that, which makes me think that they're not going to have her lose her arm, because in all honesty, no way in the Defenders are they going to then have her get shot in the exact same arm again, and this time they can't save it and they have to give her the robot arm. So I don't think they're just going, I think they're just not going to give her the robot arm at all. And in all honesty, I'm okay with that, because yes, that is a defining feature of her character, but at the same time, the Netflix shows are far more down to earth. They're far more real, and you can't really have somebody walking around being a detective on the street and try and make that seem realistic when they have a robot arm there. That's the moment that you would kind of go up to like a Tony Stark level, and it's like, yeah, you can't be in the Netflix shows anymore, but we'll have you pop up in the Avengers. So yeah, if they don't end up doing that, I'm fine with that. But at the same time, I actually think it was a pretty good little wink and nod to the people at home who had been waiting the whole time. It's like they knew that I had been sitting there going, all right, when does she get the robot arm? So I believe that they put that in there on purpose just for the people like me. But all right, let's get into the problem with this show and the thing that bumped it down from being like in second place to being tied for third. Diamondback. Yeah, okay, Cottonmouth was an amazing villain. That guy had me on the edge of my seat. He had Luke in the palm of his hand when we last saw him, and then Maria started to turn into this big villain herself, and I'll get into that more later. But when Diamondback, this guy who has been spoken of in whispers, like he's the big bad boogeyman, he's the big real threat, when he pops up, he is just nuts. And not nuts like the Joker, although there are moments there in which it's like, alright, he's trying to be an agent of chaos like the Joker. And there are moments where that does kind of work. Like his whole plan to try and get the entire city turning against itself. That's a brilliant plan. He's trying to watch all of Harlem burn. Like that is definitely a great plan for a villain in a Luke Cage show, but he's just nuts. Like his plan, it almost seems like anytime that things go right, it's just because other people are so incompetent that they're happening to fall for his plan. Like when he goes up and punches a guy and kills him with his super suit, and then he walks away and goes, I'm Luke Cage. Even Misty pointed out no one would do that. No one would murder someone right there in the street and then say their name as they walk away. That's just stupid. Like even the characters in the show are pointing out the flaws in these plans, and yet still the police all went, yeah, but that's the best lead we got. I mean, clearly it was someone with super strength, and Luke Cage wears hoodies, so maybe it was him, plus he said his name, which I think that was supposed to be commentary on police profiling, saying that even when the police don't have a good lead, they'll just use whatever they have there and then just go ahead and start arresting people. And I can only assume that that's the message that they were trying to create. That they were trying to create that message of here's kind of how police profiling works, and here's why it's not good, and here's why it doesn't work, which is indeed a message that should be in a show like this, but I don't think they handled it well. Like I think that was just done so lazily that it's like, as Misty said, no one would do that. You would have to be stupid to believe that's the person that did that. And the same goes for the rest of Diamondback's plans. Like, when he is there in the club trying to keep Luke there, and he's got everybody held hostage and he's shooting at people, all I could think was, every single witness who gets out of here is going to tell them Luke Cage saved us, it's some other guy who's doing this, you got the wrong man. Which, as far as I can tell, none of the witnesses there did that. That's the only reason why people were still after Luke Cage. Like, it made no sense to me at all why none of the witnesses like stepped up and went, yeah, no, you got the wrong guy. That was just nuts to me. Like, even Shades said, I'm not going to rat you out simply because you're so stupid. I don't want to be associated with you. Like, it would look bad on me if I said I was working for the guy who had this plan. And again, I don't know what they were trying to go with there, because yeah, Shades is absolutely right, but why on earth should I take this villain seriously when his plans are so stupid even the show knows it's stupid? Like, if his plans are stupid, at least have the characters pretend like it makes sense. Like, at least let me think, okay, well, the creators of this show didn't realize how stupid it was. No, they did. Then what's the point? So yeah, that was the biggest problem that I had with this, and it was frustrating watching that. Also, as I said in the last episode, when Diamondback shows up, and he just goes, yeah, here's our relationship, and I did all this, and I am your brother. I was like, who are you? Sorry for that car alarm. It'll pass. 2 hours later. See, told you it was past. But as I was saying, yeah, when he popped up the first time, I was like, I have no connection to you. Everything you're saying means nothing to me. But later on in the series, when we start seeing those flashbacks, when we start learning more about him, and especially in the last episode, when you see that he's the guy who taught Luke Cage how to box, I was like, if you had taken that and opened up the show with it, like, if in the first couple episodes we learned that's where Luke originally learned how to fight, he was trained as a boxer and this was his best friend as a kid, we would have had some connection to Diamondback when he eventually popped up. Like, you did this all backwards. It is, honestly, I don't mean to come in here and make it sound like I'm hating the show, because I love this show, but it is stunning to me how they did everything so damn well in this show, and then this one thing, almost everything was screwed up about it. And also I need to comment on when he popped up there at the end for the big brawl with Luke Cage. Okay, I fully understand that this all had to come down to a fight. I mean, you have a guy with super strength, you need to have him punch something there at the end. And also I really like that all the piece of equipment that Diamondback used was hammer tech, because we know from the films that Justin Hammer creates weapons that are created mostly for destruction, and they're kind of weird weapons, so I could fully understand Hammer coming up with all these devices that could be used against Luke Cage, so I didn't find any of that unbelievable. I did find the suit he was wearing to be kind of dumb, though. It wasn't horrible, it wasn't terrible, but the helmet was kind of stupid. And I fully understand, okay, you need to have him something protecting his face, but man, you could have come up with something better than that. Like that, the rest of the suit, it's okay. I can give it a pass. The helmet is like Power Rangers level stuff. By the way, no offense to Power Rangers, but you have to admit, they look like plastic toys. So, yeah, God, man, it's frustrating. Diamondback was frustrating. But that was the big problem that I had with this that bumped it down. But as I said, everything else in this worked so darn well. And I've been talking about Diamondback as the big villain, but I love that at the end of this, it gets revealed that Maria has been slowly rising up there. She's been twisting everything. As Diamondback was going out there creating a huge mess, she was finding ways to make it work to her advantage. And just when you think that they finally got her, that this is all going to wrap up, the fact that Shades then comes in and screws them one last time, man, I thought that Maria was going to be a minor character. I thought that Shades was going to be some minor lame supporting character. I do think that they handled their rise wonderfully. You've got Cottonmouth there, and everybody's looking at Cottonmouth, and you think he's gonna be the big bad villain, so when he dies, you don't know what's up. And then Diamondback comes in, and he's a total mess. I've been talking about this whole episode, but he's a total mess. But then as you're looking at those guys, these two other characters have just been rising up, and the fact that they actually win in the end, that's the thing that really sets this aside from all the other Netflix shows, is that there's, I don't want to say that there isn't a happy ending, but it is a personal happy ending. As Pops has been saying throughout this whole series, always forward, never backwards, forward always, or whatever order that went in. It's been a month since I've seen this, but I love that at the end Luke goes sometimes backwards in order to move forward, because you realize this was something that was always hanging over his head. This was the thing that he was always living in fear of. So I was watching this like, wow, the hero lost. But when he said that line, it made me realize sometimes a personal victory is the victory that you needed, because he's been afraid of this whole time. This is the thing he's been living in fear of, and now he's going to finally confront it. And that's not really one of those endings that makes you want to stand up and cheer. It's not one of those endings where you go, everything was resolved perfectly, but it is one of those endings that makes you go, you know what, this is a great character moment. But also the reason why it to me was still a really solid ending is because as it showed that montage of all these characters around and what they were doing, and as you saw Luke going off, slowly it dawned on me. It was in that moment when Misty picked off that flyer for the martial arts lessons that I realized everything I'm seeing is setting up the Defenders. And it's setting it up beautifully. Like, yes, he's going back to prison, and that seems like a massive loss for this character. But as I said, it's an emotional victory because he, as a human being, is moving ahead because he's facing down this thing that he's been afraid of. But we know he's going to be okay because we know Matt Murdock is going to represent him and get him off, and that's how they're going to meet up. And then we know that Claire is going to meet up with Danny Rand and I forgot her name, something, Colleen Wing, and they're going to meet up. And then at the end, we see Misty there in the red dress, and she's now got the big afro that she always had in the comics. Those were like the two iconic parts of her character, aside from the robot arm. And it's like, okay, so now she's in full-blown Misty Knight mode as a private detective, which, if she's now a private detective because she was fed up with the police force at the end of this, which was her character arc in the comics. She started off as a detective for the police force, then decided to leave and become a private investigator because she was fed up with the way that the cops did things. So the fact that she has now left and now gone on to become her own private investigator, it's like, all right, you know who else is a private investigator? Jessica Jones. So that's how they can meet up. And also we know that they're going to meet Colleen Wing next season. Oh my God, Misty and Colleen, the daughters of the dragon, they're coming together. It's going to happen. This was that moment watching this I realized everything's coming together. God, I cannot wait for the Defenders now. Like, I was excited for the Defenders, but that whole montage of just showing where every single person was made me realize everything's coming to a head. Like, we heard Styx's voice in the trailer for Defenders, and you know it's going to be some big threat coming, so I assumed it was going to be the Hand attacking, and it probably is, but watching this made me realize how many pieces were going to fall into place and how many pieces from each of these individual shows are all going to lead into this. It's not just going to be Daredevil Season 3 of The Defenders. It's going to be all of their show. Every single one of these characters are going to have their character arc flow into The Defenders. Man, I am just so excited for what comes next. So, plus I can't get over this. When I heard the Defenders, I was like, okay, so it's going to be Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Daredevil. But again, watching the end of this, it made me go, nope, Daughters of the Dragon are going to be in there too. Oh wait, Patsy Walker, she got a taste of some powers in that last season of Jessica Jones. Maybe she's going to pop up as Hellcat. Who knows who else is going to be in there? Man, and Elektra's going to be in there too. Jesus, I thought there's going to be 4 people. We're up to 8 right now. This is going to be an amazing series, at least as far as like fan service goes. I don't know if this could be like the opposite of the Avengers where everything comes together and then it just doesn't work together. Like, I'm not going to come in here and guarantee that the Defenders is going to be amazing. However, just speaking as a longtime Marvel Comics fan, I cannot believe that I'm about to get a show that's going to have all 8 of those characters, maybe one of which I thought I would one day see in a movie. I never thought that we would ever get anybody beyond maybe just Daredevil to pop up in this cinematic universe. And we're going to get all of them popping up in a TV show. Man, am I excited about that. But let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this season. Like I said, I know a lot of people had complaints about the show beyond just Diamondback. So let me know those as well. But also let me know the positives that you found in this show. I should also, oh man, Sorry, I got so busy geeking out that there is one other really important thing about this show and about these last couple episodes that I want to talk about. It seems kind of weird for me to bring this up after geeking out about comic books, but Luke Cage represents something very important, especially today. When he was created, you know, they wanted to create a character who was a black man who was bulletproof, and they created him right after Martin Luther King was shot. And a lot of people have said, well, he's kind of a throwback to an older era of comic books. He doesn't really work these days. But in recent years, he's taken on a whole new meaning because as America becomes more aware of violence against black people in this country, especially thanks to the Black Lives Matter movement, they're beginning to realize having a black superhero whose power is he's bulletproof, that does take on a whole new meaning. And throughout this entire series, I kept looking at this going, all right, are they ever going to actually like address that? Because they're making a lot of social commentary in this show, and I thought that's been amazing, but there's one really big piece of social commentary that they have yet to actually address. And then there came that episode in which he stopped the burglary at the little convenience store, and Method Man was there. And I love the little exchange between them, but then Method Man goes on the radio and starts talking about him. And there's that moment in which he says there's just something really great about seeing a black man who is not afraid and he's bulletproof. And they actually do address it in that moment. And I gotta say, I think that they handled it very well. I think that the way that they discussed that issue handled it with all the respect that it did deserve. So yeah, that's another thing that keeps this in the A range to me. Like, as much as I didn't like Diamondback, I can't drop this down to a B because so many other things in this show did work. And that thing right there was that moment that I've always said the best thing about superheroes is that you can look at them as metaphors for things beyond just, hey, people with powers punching each other. By the way, great that a garbage truck decided to start backing up during this moment. Yeah, screw it, I'm not cutting. I'm gonna scream through this. But I think that to me was the moment in which they came in and kind of recognized the importance of Luke Cage and how, just like some of the best superheroes out there, he is a metaphor for something else. He is a message about something. He is not just the adventures of a guy with superpowers. He is a message. And it really was impressive to me to see how they brought that up and how they dealt with that. But okay, so that's everything that I wanted to get out about these final couple episodes. As I said, let me know in the comments down below or on Twitter and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy what you felt about these final couple of episodes. As I said, I know that this is late, but I hope that you guys still enjoy this video. And now that I'm feeling better, hopefully I will be able to hit my deadlines and not be 3 weeks late with it. But again, thanks for watching, everyone. Come back next time. Bye. That garbage truck is still out there.